What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rockstar News, the podcast. I'm Mighty Mike.
I'm Chris Dunn.
I'm Michael Rohde.
And I'm Maximus Moretta.
And welcome to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the housing situation in Central Florida and the nation abroad, and some of the solutions that we could potentially have when it comes to renting properties or looking for a home. And one of the particular solutions that have been coming up is, you probably heard this in the news recently, there's going to be a new development in downtown Thornton Park area, but they're going to be developing micro apartments. These apartments are going to be about 350 to 400 square feet. They're going to cost around $1,200. Now, some people have opinions. Some people have opinions.
There's opinions.
Hooray for affordable housing.
I give you guys the floor.
Take that smart breath.
Yeah, so DIX Developments, plans to build a 120 unit. It's going to be moderately high rent.
Yeah.
And I get it, like the big, when you go to like some of the forum boards that we're on, when we talk about like smart development, all this stuff, the biggest complaint here is just like why are they charging so much for micro apartments? One, it's just because the market can demand it. People are willing,
and the market will demand it. People will pay it.
Yeah, people will pay it. And two, it has a lot to do with a lot of regulations. In Central Florida and the nation abroad, when you develop, apartments, if you slap on the name luxury and you add a bunch of amenities to the particular property, you no longer have to adhere to a bunch of regulations. There's a reason why, when you drive down the road and you see like this apartment complex, it looks like a dump, but it's like luxury apartments. It's because they're trying to avoid all those regulations, and they don't regulate luxury apartments like they do low income housing. So that's another reason why that's happening.
That's pretty cool.
But at the same time, that takes away all the other apartments. Like, nobody wants to build the regular apartments to follow all the regulations. Everything's a luxury apartment.
Yeah,
or if not, they're going to take them over and then just paint something, add a new front office, and leave everything the same.
Granite countertops.
Honestly, eventually the term luxury, what we deem as luxury, such as like granite countertops, eventually it's going to become the standard. Yeah. It's going to become the norm. So at that point, what's going to be the next stepping stone? It's pretty much just what's going to be the next trend. Like terrazzo's coming back like a flare. Yeah. And it's like,
a flare.
I was gonna say something. Terrazzo flooring is pretty much just like concrete.
It's like unfinished flooring.
It looks like it's unfinished flooring.
Yeah.
You see that a lot of like industrial places. It's industrial.
Yeah.
So I'm a minimalistic, and I completely embrace that.
You
like everywhere you would
think about it. And it was really cool because it leaves up the idea like you can put whatever flooring you want here. It is literally a blank canvas, and all you do is put a polish and a shine on it, and maybe a paint, and it's nice. It's coast. It's awesome. So I mean, it's easy to slap the name luxury, and I see that. I mean, all you do is just put granite, but granite's becoming so readily available these days that eventually
it's the standard.
It's the standard. It's almost considered as a standard right now. I'm
all about like poured concrete when it comes to countertops, actually. So
because you're like that industrial like hipster who likes that
that's
look.
Big now though. A lot of the industrial places are starting to come back where you're starting to see a big studio where they'll leave like the top all opened up
and exposed
floor.
And all it is just two walls because the lofts in the Winter Park
that's exactly
Village,
what I was talking about.
I lived there for a year. I loved it because, one, it had 30-foot ceilings, and you could see where there used to be like a light bulb that exploded, and there's just like a burnt mark on there.
There's burnt mark on and spiders that you're like, I'm never going to clean that.
Yeah, it's never going to get cleaned ever in its lifetime. But it's really cool. It's very like minimalist, and I'm a fan of it. And there's actually, the Ivanhoe is the big one right now, but there's also in downtown next to, I can't remember what building it is. I think it's the Suntrust building. There's a vacant lot on Orange Avenue that it's going to be the same thing, but for students. So we're going to be shared housing, communal housing, 500 square foot. Have you guys heard about that one?
No, I haven't.
All right, it's the exact same thing as this,
Really?
but there's a communal.
Okay.
Remember how you guys had like in your barracks, you had a communal center?
Near the courthouse downtown?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I know
across from the courthouse.
Yeah, so it's going to be like a co-housing development.
It's going to be co-housing
Which
development.
I'm all about the co-housing developments. I think they're a great idea as far as like, one of the issues that we're facing in this country is this epidemic of loneliness. And we have developed a society where like we're so like, especially with the suburbanization of, the countryside turning into just like these, what are they called?
Urban sprawl.
Urban sprawl, these cul-de-sacs and all stuff this. And then we're like becoming secluded little creatures. And so like no one wants to hang out with each other. So like this whole idea of like community has disappeared.
But even if like, they still have those communal areas, like you have to get them out there. Like, you know what I mean? People still walk up to their bedroom, look at their roommate, and go into their room.
You're gonna, of course, you're gonna hear like bad reports, but communal sharing has been around for ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this isn't new. Like co-housing developments have been around since like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
right.
You know, like they were called communes at that point. But
so anybody who's facing that kind of,
we just rebrand everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So anyone who's gonna fight that is like, those are the biggest things. Like,
let's talk about
open for tax and stuff like that.
Let's talk about pricing though. Like $1,200 for 500 square feet downtown. What do you got?
Looks like they just took a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, cut off the bath, and said, "Here you go for $1,200."
Yeah.
So I get it. Like $1,200 seems like a steep price for that, but that's this idea that you're paying. You want to get more bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the reality is that like it's going to be based off of location. Like
the reason why, exactly. Park.
The reason why you go to like California and there's shacks that are selling for $300,000 isn't because of the house. You're buying the real estate.
Spot, yeah.
There's no shack in California for $300,000.
There
you
is
meant millions, sir. I'm correcting you. I've literally seen a shack a 2-1 for like 4.5 million.
How big was it,
dude? Probably it was probably bigger. Like the size of this room. The size of this room was one of the bedrooms, and the other side of the house was the other side of the office where we're at.
The location.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the price goes, I think it's gonna be based off of market forces. You know, so if you start getting like, and I guarantee they're gonna get a bunch. It's 120 units.
Yeah,
I guarantee they're gonna get booked up. Like they're
so
gonna.
Really
it's gonna sell out
really
quick because people want that lifestyle. And
they want the accessibility, like you're saying.
Yeah, and that lifestyle. No, you're good. You know, to live downtown. And to be able to ditch your car, think about it. Like, how much insurance would you save? How much gas would you save? How much time would you avoid if you weren't like the average commute is like 30 minutes each way, so that's an hour right there. You know, a typical person is spending probably like $150 in gas with their car every month.
Yep.
Insurance wise, I think it's like average is like $500 every 6 months or something like that.
Yep.
So like all that money that you're potentially saving, so you're paying for a lot more for this apartment. But you're also cutting out all these other expenses.
Yeah. See, like I think that's a great logic in other cities that I've seen, like in a New York, in a Seattle, and in LA, where they have that infrastructure and they're actually ready to be not a commuter city anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't see it right now in Orlando. I mean, they've tried to bring in the train
they're trying
system.
to beat that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
I just think we're doing it backwards. Like I think we need to bring in that transportation infrastructure first, because if we put all these more apartments in, we just don't have the space.
Well, to that point, like he does in the article, they talk about how like downtown Orlando isn't at a 24/7 downtown yet. They're predicted about 5 years. And the reason why, like, here's the thing: the city is not going to sit there and build this infrastructure out. It's a case of if you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
You know, so if they start building this up and more people start moving downtown Orlando, then the city's going to feel the pressure to build this infrastructure, to put all this place. Like they have the Lynx limo, which you could like, you know, ride for free around some of this, but there's only like one track and it goes, you know, just in a continuous circle.
It's small.
The infrastructure to add more elements other than just a train or a bus. I guess you guys would say that they're lacking in that department.
They are, but the thing is that it ends up being that it's usually the chicken and the egg concept that we're at right now, where like it's either one or the other needs to come first, and
one domino's gonna fall.
Exactly, but then if you know the DIX development group decides to like build this and then build another one, then the congestion itself is going to dictate that like less people are going to have cars. Like if you imagine 120 units and 120 cars like per individual, and then most units, like if you can do like double up 2 people and then double up the cars, like multiply, that'll be 240 cars additional in a downtown area. There's going to be people that are going to be like, nope, I don't want my car no more. Get rid of it, and then they're going to live downtown.
Especially if you have to pay for like a parking pass.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
You do. In the article itself, it said the parking was additional. It wasn't included.
Of
it
course.
was
That's like
$125.
the apartment complex I pay, like right now, we have 2 people living in a 2-bedroom apartment. We get 1 parking pass.
Yep.
So I have to pay extra money for a parking pass. If they do that same thing downtown, I mean, I've lived in a high-rise downtown, and parking's insane down there.
Yeah.
Well, let's also be real, because I've been in some of those apartments downtown Orlando, and they're no bigger than what we were talking about right now.
Right. Yeah, they're really not. And some of those buildings like are really outdated.
Yeah.
You walk through and they're outdated.
Yeah.
You know, that's really like
the Metropolitan downtown.
That's Metropolitan.
That's horrible. Waverly.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being a realtor, I've become really cynical when it comes to certain developments. There's a place, I forget what it's called, but it's right off of Michigan and Conway between Cimarron and 436.
So those little town.
Oh yeah, little townhome
Yeah,
condos.
yeah.
Super
Like,
nice.
super nice on the outside.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
walk in there, you're just like, what is this? Looks like Trump Towers. They built this. Yeah.
Trump Towers.
Like, you never heard of that? Trump
no.
Towers, when they developed that, like, it was, these people were spending millions of dollars on these units in Trump Tower, and they were just like falling apart.
Well, that sounds
Yeah.
like you're just buying the name.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
You bought Donald Trump.
I think that's
But
what
I'm
they
just
did.
saying, like, I've been to these condos, I've seen them, I walked through them, and for the price that they're charging, yeah, I get it. Like, you look at $1,200 a month, you're like, oh, this isn't worth it.
But
But this isn't downtown. This is
Yeah.
over
and
here.
a lot of the people that kind of like, lack of a better term, bitch and gripe is they want that idea of living downtown, but they just they don't want to live downtown. They just see the price for the cost, and they're just like, nope, don't. That's ridiculous.
In what manner you would say that? Like, how would you say that people want to live downtown, but they don't?
I think this
Go ahead.
it's kind of going into the psychological aspect. I can understand it or see it, but
Yeah.
translating it
Yeah.
correctly,
Mhm.
I don't think I would be able to do justice.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try.
Okay.
A lot of people that I see arguing about the cost of rent would never live downtown, but they will get mad seeing that the price per square foot to what they could get outside of the city town
Okay.
are some of the louder voices that you hear.
That makes sense.
Because like I can complain all day about like I would never pay $1,200 for a 500 square foot place.
Yeah.
But also I don't want to live downtown, so I'm gonna be a loud voice.
Gotcha.
Instead of like, well, that makes sense. People are gonna pay for it.
Yeah. That's
'Cause
true.
I'm also that voice.
Yeah, like, have you ever been to IKEA and you walk through the 350 square foot, 400?
It's spacious.
I love those things, man.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, so if they could build it like that, where you walk through it and just like, you section up the house correctly to where like you have a living room, a bedroom / I don't know, like a wall divided.
Yeah.
And then you have your own bathroom. Like, I think this would be perfect for young individuals who are going to be going in there, and that's kind of like the idea that they're trying to do.
Like downtown is surrounded
isn't
by
for
business
families.
people.
Yeah.
Like that's who lives downtown.
That's okay. Me and my wife are gonna move down there with my one child. We're gonna live in a 500 square foot apartment. It's fine. It's tiny house. It's all just in one place.
that's what I'm
Like,
saying,
if
like,
you're
people
if you're willing
use-
to make that sacrifice, then you want to live downtown.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You want that lifestyle.
Yeah. I'm very metropolitan when it comes to stuff like that. Like it doesn't bother me to walk
I like being
and
at
bike
arm's
and
distance.
yeah. Some people like, you know what I mean? And then the thing is that we're so it's going to be like a very contradicting, I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but we live in Florida. Everybody wants their space. Everybody wants their acreage. Everybody wants their land. And the thing that gets me about Florida is that you want all the space and acreage that you're just going to mow. I've never met a Floridian that has land and acreage and has an orchard or uses it or like very minimal, like have gardens.
You gotta
They
go
is-
rule, man.
Yeah, the excuse that I always hear, like, oh man, I want a lot of land so I can have like host parties. And then I'm like, all right. And then like when they move in, they're like,
Nothing.
when do you have a host a party? Like, oh, I've been too busy with work.
I've been too busy cutting this grass.
Cutting this grass, And I get it. Like, I think a lot of people want, you kind of like, the whole idea of like they eat with their eyes. They see everybody have this lawn, and they grew up with a backyard, a big backyard for a dog and stuff like this. But then when they get older, they realize their lifestyle is actually different from what their parents were. And they don't need this yard. They don't need all this stuff. So I think, we need to go to like a small developments. And like when you go to like new developments and you see like townhomes stacked together.
So people are like, I would never buy here.
Yeah, like, oh, I don't want to smell my
I'll never
neighbor's
buy
fart.
here.
And I was like, look, that's just the way it's going to be going. Like, you have Oregon, who last year banned single family homes.
Yeah.
So you can't even build a single family home in some states now, and other states are following suit.
Yeah, a lot of states are
Well, that
following
one,
suit.
there was a little bit more on that. Like, I think it's in population density of
10,000.
10,000
Yeah.
or more.
Yeah. You can still build family homes in
Yeah.
Oregon if you're
Yeah.
looking to move there. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're gonna be you're looking at rural.
rural.
Yeah.
Like
But
you're
if
gonna
you
be
think-
literally miles from.
But if
the
you think
nearest
about it, the
city.
people that do want single family homes do want a little bit more rural than it is in an urban area. Like
That's why I'm moving to Longwood.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's not-
pros and cons. Like you think about it, it's like a lot of the older developments. Like I look at older cities, I look at older developments, and like one of my favorite cities right now, and like one of my favorite cities that I would probably want to move to in the future is Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm looking over there, and every house, very few of them are single family. A lot of them are multifamily homes because that's the way the stuff was back in the day. Like I grew up in New York City. A lot of stuff is multifamily homes.
Row
You,
housing.
Yeah.
you know, like
Because you got to
3, 4
stack.
You got to
That's
stack.
that's the only option.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the only option.
So it's, some people feel uncomfortable. It's like, oh, you're taking up my space. And like,
See, that's where like I'm not necessarily one of those people that wants to be in that urban space. I do prefer actually having my own space, having more land. But I've seen just what happened in downtown Orlando with the urban sprawl when we had that. If you look at like the skyline in downtown Orlando right now, you're starting to see the big buildings popping up. But it didn't used to be like that. I grew up here, and it used to be like 5-story buildings.
Yeah, it was SunTrust.
Question. What is that?
And that's what just ruins the city, in my opinion.
What is that building that when you're on the 408 getting onto I-4, the new one that's building up, the blue?
I don't know. That's a really cool building, though.
That's actually the first mixed-use building that's been approved in downtown Orlando in the past, I believe, decade. There's going to be units in there, and then commercial space, commercial buildings.
One more time, and you said that what is it? You were talking about in particular that like the skyline of Orlando. Like, what do you say that's messed up about it?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that like it's good to see that we're starting to get those big buildings, like Chris was saying. We're starting to stack. In the past, in Orlando and just in the Central Florida area, a lot of businesses have been spread out.
Gotcha.
It's kind of urban sprawl.
So we're trying to fix that now.
Yeah, we're going more vertical, and that's where. If you look at any big city, they're all vertical.
Well, the issue with Orlando is that we don't really have like a bedrock structure to build super high.
Yep.
So
neither does Miami, but they still did it.
Yeah, that's true. They're literally built on a beach.
We're better than Miami.
Whatever.
Our bedrock is better than Miami. Our clay, our sand.
There's certain techniques you can use to build like a foundation for tall buildings.
So you build down first.
Yeah, you build down, and there's I don't know. I'm not.
It's called
engineer.
pylons.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to go into this. But like, there's a certain way you could do it. But no, yeah, I agree 100%. Like I sent you that video that was talking about like why we need to build up. And it's just simply because, like, when it comes to like cities and infrastructures, the more spread out your city is, the more pipes that you need, the more wiring that you need. And I think it was I forget what city it was, but I think it was like in Ireland. They predicted or they estimate that about 50% of the water is lost just from water leakage, just simply because it's just because they're going through pipes and the pipes leak and
they're
no such
old. And they freeze too.
But it's not even that. That's all cities. All cities have a certain level of leakage. You got to think about they build these pipes, they put them in the ground, and no one sees them until there's a problem. You know, like so they literally just sit in there and they're
how
just
many little problems are there that we
don't
exactly
see? Yeah, you don't see that there's just
unbeknownst problems that people throw down there, like the washable or flushable clean wipes. Those are not supposed to dissolve. They don't dissolve. They just get clumped up in there.
Oh man, like
I think San Francisco's having a massive
shooting properties and stuff like that. Like you go to people's houses and you're shooting properties.
Taken down by wet wipes.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Icebergs or
fatbergs.
Fatbergs.
Fatbergs. Yeah, I think who is it that had the biggest one? I think California had one of the biggest ones, and then London had the biggest one in the world. And
that's incredible.
They had to go in there and like drill it out and do crazy construction.
Well, it was funny. There was a city or a town in South America where they all scheduled like a time of day where every resident was going to flush the toilets at the same time in order to remove a blockage, and they did it. And it was just like everybody
Did
was
that
like,
actually work?
Yeah.
No way.
So everybody flushes toilets.
That is the most cost-effective.
We're going to have to do a follow-up on that.
That'll go.
The only money that they're going to spend is advertising dollars and the hype through social media.
So they did that.
Didn't they do that with the opening of the Amway Center? They had a giant like soft opening, and they had everyone go into like a stall or like a flush, and they all flushed it at the exact same. They like, rang a buzzer. If you heard it, it was one massive flush.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, but
got a clock? Let's go flush this thing.
You know, it's all about like I think that like what ends up happening is that the cost of living in Orlando and the cost of renting is becoming a real problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like
is
a lot of it depends on the industry, bro, because there's people out there that can't afford to where they live at. Like they talk about like, you know, park employees and all that other stuff. Like they can't.
I'm going to be ignorant and say that sounds like a person problem.
Yeah, but you know, it's just like you could say that's a person problem. They would have to be more industrious and entrepreneurial, but at the same time, like, I don't know how to fix that problem.
I don't either, but it seems like it seems like it's not. It doesn't necessarily seem like it's a problem. It just sort of seems like it's a trend. I mean, if you look at some of these,
that's a good
point. The other markets that are flourishing and stuff like that, we're starting to see Orlando emerge as an emerging market. A lot of statistics have shown just an emerging market in business.
Emerging market in business.
Yes,
okay, so
for business it's good, but for the individual that may have been here in the past,
yeah,
new businesses move in, they get replaced.
Well, I think.
kind of
The
just how
reason why
life-
our numbers
life
look
goes
so
on.
bad is because Disney is one of the largest employers here, and they typically are low cost employer, so they kind of skew the numbers. So, but there are tons of new industries, new businesses that are coming and moving into this area. So, I think we have skewed numbers. Like vast majority of people I know are professionals who work in other industries. They may have started out in Disney, but they're not making $12, $15 an hour anymore.
Okay.
Well, I think Disney is kind of a bad one too, because there's so many people who they're a large employer, but they also house a lot of their own employees, which that money goes right back into their own pocket.
In what manner do you mean they house their employees?
Like the old school,
Well,
corporate
there's
towns?
a lot of employees are from overseas.
Oh, you're
in
talking about the
Disney.
interns. The interns, the college interns are just college interns, and they live on dorms.
No, I'm not talking about like college. I guess so in some sect, like
Yeah.
college interns, but actual people who are from a foreign country move here just to work for Disney.
Mhm.
They don't know anything, so they listen to Disney that has their own housing. There are a lot of apartment complexes around Disney that Disney owns, and so what they do is you have to pay X amount to live here,
I've never
and
heard
then
of that.
we'll provide you transportation
That's a
to
big,
work.
Yeah, that's a
and
big
to-
reason for the Airbnb pushback right now.
And it's
Disney
actually it's
properties.
a vicious cycle because some of these employees can't get out
Oh, okay.
because
Never heard of
they're
that.
literally getting no money, and money goes right back to Disney.
Yeah, it sounds like back in the day.
You guys haven't heard about that?
No, I haven't heard about the Disney situation, but like historically, there was like coal mining towns that were owned and run by the coal mining company, and so all the employees would live in this town, and then they would get coal mining dollars. Essentially, like it was the corporate bucks, and you would literally get paid in this. You would have to go to the corporate general store to buy all your supplies, and like they could never get out.
It's
of
like
that
the gold
situation.
mines and that.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Amazon back in back in the day.
Yeah, they could never get out of this situation because you're getting paid not in real dollars. You're getting paid in corporate bucks. You had to go buy from their general store. You had to live in their facilities. Eventually, this came to an end when there was a huge riot that destroyed a lot of these places, and like the whole workers' rights movement came
workers'
into.
rights.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's interesting. I know Disney's anti.
So where is this being built in Ivanhoe,
Which one?
or not?
This
in
one?
Ivanhoe, Thornton Park, right?
In Third Park, I don't know the exact location. I'm trying to look it up right now.
I don't know. Like
Because I
down
haven't,
south-
I haven't
One
seen
of the-
any land being cleared. For
And I think that's one of the big issues too. I think that Max is worried about as well. It's these people getting priced out of
Yeah.
the area
yeah.
because they're working for Disney and they're allowing these big tourist attractions that are bringing in all of the money. But and really, I mean, the fruits of their labor are built on their backs. But then they don't have anywhere to stay. I think that's
Exactly.
the big. That's where we're coming to a point where we're gonna have to see some sort of change, or those people find a new place to live. Which
Yeah.
I know it sounds not to sound heartless, but that's kind of just economics.
Yeah.
So
survival. of the
I don't know.
fittest.
I don't know the answer, but I think that's a big question that we're going to need to solve here in the next 10 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it's not just here; it's everywhere that's happening. Where like everybody's getting priced out the market. Like, oh yeah, like let's have a janitor, but at the same time, the janitor can't afford to live downtown. He has to live like what they're calling super commuters, and it's like they have to live in like the equivalent of Orlando to living in Deltona or something like that to afford somewhere to live.
If you live in New York, that's a pretty common thing.
Yeah,
Like people will literally work in the city
but then
and then live in Connecticut.
Well,
and
my
surrounding
whole
states.
family's
Oh, wow.
up in the Northeast.
But then-
and they all live New Jersey, Connecticut, and they all
But
work
then
in
the other
city.
thing is that there's a massive exodus happening in New York right now. There's massive exits happening in all these major cities. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people living in all these cities, but then there's also a massive exit because they can't live there anymore.
Do you think that that's because the city just sort of reached its limit infrastructurally, or
Oh no, they were still building.
Economically.
Because they built that one of the tallest apartment buildings ever. But the only thing is, like, the penthouse costs like $10 million to live there.
And then
You know?
that's what I'm
But-
saying, like the inflation of that
Yeah.
of that market.
exactly, but then at the other end of that is like their their vacancy rate is ridiculous. Like they're not making any money. They're building all these crazy buildings, and they're like nobody wants to live there because they can't afford it. So it's gonna be a give and take.
Well, the problem with so the reason why they're doing a lot of those developments is because you got a lot of Chinese and Russian and other foreign investors coming in here, and they're basically stuffing their dollars into the American market.
Yeah,
So even if they're not making any money, they at least got their money out of their country that they're in.
yeah.
Especially in China, where
Well, they're
like
bringing the money back from America. They're
the reason why they're doing
business-wise.
this is because like in China, you can only remove a certain amount of of your own money out of the country.
Yeah.
So you had to come up with like
different ways.
Different
Different
ways.
ways
And
to
so
get it out.
investment is one of them.
Yeah.
So if you sit there and invest in real estate, you can literally move large sums of money
Yeah.
into the U.S. out of your country,
Yeah.
and then the Chinese Communist Party is not going to question or bat an eye about it. And let's be honest, most of the people who are doing it are part of the Chinese Communist Party. They're the rich people.
But then what ends up happening, and the same thing is happening in London, where you have a lot of foreign investors flooding the market, and there is no place to live at. Like, they're literally buying houses, keeping them empty because that's the way to hide their money and launder their money. And
a lot of Chinese people are buying a property like that.
you know what I mean?
There's a lot of that going
'Cause
on.
when I worked
now
at
too.
when I worked for DR Horton, then a
Yeah.
title company.
Yeah.
Once a month, there was this one gentleman who would sign, who had the power of attorney for multiple people, and
Yeah.
he would literally sign like 5-6 homes at a time.
Yeah. So that's something that I think
A power of attorney? It's like so and so for the power of
Yeah.
that's it. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Like the guy has carpal tunnel now.
But then
Feel
the
sorry
thing
for
is,
him.
like, we would have that's something that
Take
we
some carpal tunnel
definitely
for a little bit
need
of
to
money.
look into.
He's banking.
As far as I forgot what country it is, but they I think it's one of the Scandinavian countries where they the locals take priority. Like, if it isn't until like the housing
Yeah, I know what
development
you're
is
talking
up to like 70%, occupancy rate, that they might consider putting in a foreign investor. Or you can't even buy property if you're a foreign investor until like X amount of the locals have a say so and taken into stuff like this. So like, these are a lot of things that Scandinavian countries have put in place to protect their local citizens.
I see certain, especially New York and California, I see them passing rules or laws that are similar to that, where like you can't sell the first 70% of the units to anyone but locals, and then after
Nice.
that you could do that. It's like you said, like, they're literally coming in here, and the reason why developers are so willing to sell these to investors from overseas is because they don't care about the price.
Yeah,
Like,
they
to
don't.
them, they just don't care. Like, they'll sit there and be like, all right. They don't negotiate. Like, they don't sit there just like, it's $1 million. Bam, here's $1 million. Let's do this.
Because they're not
Yeah,
buying.
or
They're
it-
not buying the property for the value. They're buying it for the tax shelter or
Exactly.
the money
Yeah.
laundering or whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
I
so
see that a lot.
that's something that we have to like pretty much keep our eye on as a just a population and everything. So
Yeah, so, I mean, like, are they going to ever build, like, low-income family homes? Didn't we do that? Like, was that the projects?
that was-
We did that.
Yeah.
We did that next to 408 back. I think like 15 years ago now.
yeah.
It's
And
still there,
Orlando.
but look how it looks. If you guys drive by it when
Which
you
one?
guys are merging on it,
One of them's not
Yeah,
bad.
one of them is not bad, and they like to the right as you're going to east when you're taking I-4 east. There's a new one that looks pretty like Asian-y or something like that. They have they have a totem pole in their
Oriental.
yard.
I-4 East, I guess, from
So from 408 to I-4 east, when you're doing that merge and you're coming around that bend, like
Is it on like it's somewhat near Amway?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a couple of apartment complexes, and then I don't know per se, like, you can't quote me on this 100%, but there's a lot of places in Paramore that are protected for low-income housing, the community, and all that other stuff. And what is it, the public land trust and everything? Like,
I remember
tried.
hearing about that.
They've been fighting a lot to like protect those people.
There's a lot of laws back from a lot of like around the civil rights movement time down in the Paramore areas, like local ordinances and stuff like that.
No,
Because
that
that used to be
protected or trying to get amended.
So Paramore used to be predominantly African American community,
Yeah.
and then once segregation ended, it turned into sort of
wasn't it a
lower
popular
income.
community?
It was a
wasn't
very-
a very healthy community.
Yeah, it was a very healthy community, and then actually I saw it was I forget the gentleman's name, but he was on the board for acquisitions for Orange County commissioners, and he was just explaining to us how back in the day Paramore used to be a thriving community.
Right.
And then once we desegregated the whole country, it used to be that there was only African Americans, and they actually had to keep all their money there. And then when they were allowed to leave, there was a max exodus in the community. They had too much vacancy. Vacancy rates were too high. Prices dropped, and that's really where you saw that decline of the economy, because people were finally free and able to leave, and nobody came back in.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
makes
where
sense.
we're still
That
feeling the
makes
effects
sense.
from the 60s and 70s in
That
that
makes
area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just got educated.
yeah, me
Thanks,
too.
man.
Yeah, that
I didn't
makes
know
sense. That makes sense. Because they used to be somewhere in the Midwest. I forgot what it used to be called, like Black Wall Street. And they talked about like fires and stuff like that. But then at the same time, like desegregation makes everybody leave and not want to go back to those places. And, you know.
Everyone was mad.
Yeah, right. I'd be pissed too, right?
They're mad about their situation.
They're
like,
forced
you
to
want
live there.
Stay here? Like, nah, I'm moving out of here. But on that note, we're going to go ahead and end this episode. This apartment building probably won't be finished. They said they're going to take early leasing. So early leasing means they're taking leasing or leases, but they're not actually moving anybody in there. But by 2022.
Yeah, they haven't even broken land. It's like there are so many houses throughout Thornton Park that are still standing. Like,
Yeah.
where are you guys? What are you guys clearing? Where?
Yeah, so this article is the Orlando Weekly. I'll go ahead and link a description in the show notes down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments about development in Central Florida, about real estate, investing, all that good stuff, go ahead and drop in the comments down below. We love you guys so much, so we appreciate you guys watching it, and we're always here to be able to guide you, help you guys out. I'm Monty Mike.
I'm Chris Nan.
I'm Michael Rohde.
I'm Maximus Moretta.
We'll see you guys in the next episode.